Hello and welcome to the Gig Stories podcast. A bit of a chillier one this morning, I think, with me and Chris. We've both got hoodies on. Chris has got a woolly hat on. It's autumn, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, I like it. I love that it's suddenly just gone boom, autumn. No warning. We had no idea this was going to happen, and suddenly it's autumn. I'm quite happy about it. I like it when it's a bit definite rather than just a vague blur into something that's just a little bit not as warm.
It's true. It's been a very wet, rainy week. But I had this really nice image. Look at him. I'm being professional here and bringing it to live music. And I had this lovely image this week. I was in the car and I was sat at traffic lights. And the rain was just drizzling down the windscreen and sort of creating that slightly blurred effect in between those seconds of pause that your windscreen wipers give. And as I looked up here in Manchester, we have some wonderful signs, electronic signs about our transport, about the trams and traffic in general. And it just said, increased traffic tonight, elbow at the Apollo, three nights running. And I was just like, that is incredible. Elbow have their own traffic warning around Manchester. And it was just perfect because obviously Elbow, in Manchester, we love and embrace them because they're I say ours as an adopted Manc. Well, we're both adopted Mancs, I hope. And what a perfect picture. Manchester's Elbow through the drizzly rain. And it was nice. I was like, yes, those dates are back on. They've got 3 nights at the Apollo. Elbow at home. Doesn't matter about the rain. It was all good. It was a really nice sight. Now you've been back at it. You've been busy. You've had your long lens out again.
Bless you. Yeah, I have. I had a crazy night last Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you did it.
No, I'm not entirely sure.
I was looking at the timings of your texts to me, stage times, and then your Twitter, and I was thinking, how is he doing this? Go on, tell us about your evening.
No, it's bonkers. So Tim Burgess had the delayed launch of his latest solo album, and it was at Night and Day. And I've never actually photographed in Night and Day before.
Have you not?
No, it was, it's one of these ones which just seems to have slipped through. And there are a few Manchester venues as well. I've never photographed at Deaf Institute.
Wow, that's one of my favourite venues.
Yeah, I've done, I think, actually, there aren't that many, but Deaf Institute and Night and Day were ones which I hadn't done. So,
we should say that actually Night and Day is pretty iconic, isn't it, in Manchester? It's the Night and Day Cafe, and by day it's a cafe and little bar, and by night it's a venue. But it's become quite irregular for the people of Manchester, hasn't it? Quite important in the live music scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I got there a little bit early, and I'm really glad I did, because I got there and there was a queue of people outside. And so I managed to get in, and Tim was doing a sound check with the band and sounded fantastic. I'm so glad I got there early because Nick, who kindly sorted out the me photographing there, he said, well, you can photograph just now absolutely fine, and then do some more during the gig. And I, took some shots and snapped away, and it was lovely. And then,
it's got to be said, your photos, obviously, you are a wonderful photographer. Those photos look fantastic, and the ones of just his sound check. How is Tim so effortlessly cool? It's bizarre, isn't it?
It's quite something. He was so lovely as well. He was
so
great.
Amazing.
Because I was snapping him, and he just kind of caught my eye and gave us a big smile as if to say, "Yeah, it's fine, it's cool." Just take some shots.
He's beautiful. Yeah. Listeners, if you've never met Tim, Oh, he's such a lovely human being, and yeah, to be able to look so wonderful during a
Yeah.
sound check as well is amazing.
Official national treasure, that man.
Yeah, he really is. He really is.
So I did that, and then the audience got let in, and it started getting busier and busier. And I thought, right, I'm going to stay right by the front, and I did.
And what is Chris? What is the capacity at Night and Day, mate? Because I know it's small, but can you guess?
I would guess about. It's no more than 250. At the very most, I would say it's probably less than that. I mean, sometimes it's quite difficult when it's packed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll check that. But
so I mean, but for our listeners, this you are up against it as a photographer there, aren't you? Because it is so small and it was really enclosed, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no pit. You're not wandering across the front of the stage or anything like that. Basically, you're against the speaker or the monitors or the what the monitors are on. So yeah, it just got really packed.
Is that it as a photographer then, Chris? Is that something that you have to have a? This sounds awful, but I'm ignorant. Do you have to have a strategy? So you go to somewhere like Night and Day, and you think, oh, hang on, there's no pit here. Do you start planning where you think you'll be able to stand when you're then surrounded by people?
Oh, definitely. In places like that. So Night and Day, as I found out, there's no pit. So other places like that are Band on the Wall and also Gorilla. So you'll not have a pit there. You don't. So the pit is just the space in front of the stage, which is then separated from the audience, so the photographers can walk about and get a range of shots. So, like I say, I've never photographed at Night and Day before, but Gorilla is one that I've photographed a few times. I did Jonas Policeman there and Slaves. So Slaves was one. I was right at the front, and when they got on stage, the crowd went absolutely batshit. It just went off, absolutely went off. And and my strategy there was get a few right from the front and then get round the side, because the most important shots in this gig are going to be the ones of the band interacting with the crowd.
Good call. Yeah, of course.
And then so the guitarist, oh God, his name escapes me. I can't remember. Anyway, he eventually jumped into the crowd with his guitar, and so was able to get some shots of that.
Amazing.
But it was a good decision because the beer cans were getting thrown around and it just went off. So yeah, you do have to have a strategy to make sure that kind of the shot that you want, because you can. I mean, obviously, I was lucky that I was able to shoot the sound check, so I could move around to the side and all that for Tim's gig. But often you'll look and you'll see where the seats are, where the guitars are placed, so you can guess. You pretty much know where people are going to be on stage, and you go, right, well, I want that shot. If I get that, then that's the kind of headline image I've got, and then anything else is a bit of a bonus. So
sorry, I just wanted to ask you this question. I think that's really interesting, and I know that people would be interested to hear.
Absolutely, and that's just the way that I do it. I've learned just by doing. So I'm guessing that other music photographers will have a completely different way of doing it. They'll choose that their eye will be different. They'll want to get different kinds of shots just because of the nature of their style. But it just varies from gig to gig, really.
No, that's fab. So yeah, back to you Tim Burgess.
Oh yeah, so the audience came in
next.
I think it got busier and busier and busier. And I mean, it wasn't an absolute mosh pit. But it was quite busy. And then I was looking at my watch and thinking, right, I've got to get to another gig. And the other gig, the headline starts at 9:15, and it was Ash. And it wasn't and Ash weren't playing at Matt and Fred's just across the road. No, they were playing at the Ritz, which is, the other side of the city centre. So they were supposed to, Tim was supposed to be on at 8:30. And then by 9:15, so half an hour away from Ash going on stage, I was thinking, I'm cutting this a bit fine here. And then basically I thought, I had a quick look through my camera and thought, yeah, I think I've got it. It would be nice to get shots of the crowd and all that kind of stuff, but 8:45, and then it got to 8:55 and 20 minutes. So that meant I had 20 minutes to get out of Night and Day and walk all the way across to the Ritz. And I walked past the tram line because I thought if I can get to St. Peter's Square or to Castlefield Deansgate, then it might save me a couple of minutes. Nah, there weren't any trams at that split second. So I just had to leg it. And so I legged it, and I got there with about 2 minutes to spare, and then photographed Ash at the Ritz. So yeah, it was great. It was great, and I quite like. I've done it once before. I've done one of those kind of crazy nights where I went to photograph in spiral carpets at the Ritz, and it was a similar kind of sprint, because then I had to get to the MEN to photograph Madness.
Unbelievable.
And it was absolutely in spiral carpet. No, madness. It was absolute madness. Yeah.
I love what a night. And you've already said, but another big shout out to Nick and Tim Burgess for arranging that for you. And a big shout out to our drummer boy, Rick McMurray.
Onion Rick.
Exactly, Onion Rick, previous guest on this podcast. What a night! And I'm going to big this up because, and you lot will see it on social media. I love seeing Chris out and about shooting again, and those photographs from that night and other gigs over the past few weeks are fantastic. And Chris has started collating them and putting them together, ready for the Gig Stories website, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to put every gig that I photograph, but I feel like if we do talk about any of the gigs that either we're both at or that we're chatting about, then I'll pop them up as a wee gallery. So I'm just wrangling the website just now. And so we'll have some from Shed 7, and I'll put on some of Skylights and Pigeon Detectives.
Yep.
And I'll do Tim and New Order from the other week. And any other ones that we end up at over the next few weeks. So
and if they're not on there, and people, you want to see Chris's work, go to his website. Now, I don't want to get it wrong. What's your website address, Chris?
My website is chrispayneimages.co.uk.
Fantastic. Now, moving on in the same vein and bigging up Chris yet again. Today's episode was just a fantastic chat. It was glorious, and our guest had a bit of Wi-Fi trouble, should we say? Was sat outside, and so the audio cut in and out a bit. And Chris here is a master and spent quite some time in the edit bringing this interview together for us. So thank you for that, Chris. So if you do notice any glitches or changes in levels, what Chris has already done is sort of heroic. But I promise you, it doesn't take away from the interview. And today's guest is none other than Ren Harvieu.
She's great, and oddly enough, I photographed her. Well, I think I mentioned this maybe in the interview, but I know that we mentioned it just as we started our chat with Ren. But I photographed her at one of the first ever gigs that I photographed when I took up photography. It was just outside Swinton Town Hall in Salford.
Wow.
Yeah,
down the road from me.
Yeah, and she was. So this was not long after her first album came out. So this was, I think, it was either 2013 or 2014. I think it was 14. And she played this festival. There was a fantastic Smiths covers band tribute act called I want to say Smiths Incorporated.
Okay,
Smiths Limited or Smiths Limited. I can't remember, but I remember the Morrissey was he looked very much and sounded very much like Morrissey. They were great. But Ren was...
Was it actually Morrissey, mate?
Do you know what? It could have been Morrissey.
Yeah, I think so.
No, it wasn't Morrissey. But Ren was knockout. She was really cracking, and I took her picture afterwards. I took her portrait afterwards. So that was one of the first portraits that I ever took.
She's fascinating, isn't she? And people, I was going to say deserve, but this sounds a bit shite, but people need to hear her voice. Yeah. Ren is her voice is incredible, and she is unique, and that's often a word used when people don't know what else to use. But if you listen to her music and you read her interviews and you see her, she is unique. She's like no one else. She's just fantastic, and everyone should hear Ren Harvieu. And so it was a great chat.
Yeah, if you listen to 2 albums, they will transport you. Really, they will really transport you.
You are you're absolutely right. They really will. And it was great listening to her music again. And she's been sort of regularly every couple of days on my playlist. So that's enough chat from us. Let's get straight into the interview. I think you're going to love it. So here she is.
This is Ren Harvieu.
Welcome to the Gig Stories, as always, with me, Alex, and my friend Christopher. And it's a beautiful summer evening, and we are privileged to introduce you to singer-songwriter Ren Harvieu. How are you doing, Ren?
I am doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Do you know what? I am very hot. We've had a beautiful day up here in Salford. See, you left Salford, Ren, and you've left the weather behind. It's gorgeous.
Alex, I'm guessing that it's probably quite warm in London as well.
It is. It's lovely today.
I'm sure. It almost feels, although now you've told me you live in London, it almost feels this episode is like a home fixture, because, I'm up in Salford, and Ren, you are a Salford girl. That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I'm from Broughton.
From Broughton. Do you miss it up north?
I miss the people. For sure. I miss the humour, and I miss the wit. I
noticed that when I lived in London. When I lived in London, it's different, isn't it? I love London, and I would probably move back. I would move back there if the time was right. But I do just miss chat. In London, I never felt like I could chat on public transport or anything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas up north here, I feel like I can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different vibe for sure.
It is. So how's your past year? And again, I keep saying to friends, it's been a weird one for everyone, but you released Revel in the Drama just as we got into a pandemic.
Yeah.
How's that all been, and how's that all played out for you?
I think now it's played out for the best. At the time I was really unsure of how I was supposed to handle the situation, because the world had kind of folded in on itself. I didn't feel like I could be upset, because there was so much going on. But I'd worked 8 years for this, and I had a hard time with it. I had to really actively, I had to basically dive into Eckhart Tolle, the spiritual guy, and like just read his book, A New Earth. That kind of pulled me out, because I just, I think in that situation, like for a second, I felt like it was personal. And then I realized like what an egoic thing it is to think that it's personal. So I knew it wasn't personal, but, my mind didn't really know how to take it. So there was a period of just like, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't really know what to do. I mean, luckily, just before lockdown happened, I moved in with a group of friends, and who are all musicians. So on the night that my album came out, I came downstairs into the basement. That's where all like the music is set up, and they'd like had a little party for me.
Oh, lovely.
That was a huge, it felt so nice, but yeah, it's not been easy.
You just feel like now you're in a better place?
Yeah, I feel I'm in like a completely different place. I put my entire reason for being and my whole identity on this album coming out and doing well. I hadn't really stopped to imagine what would happen if something was to get in the way or it didn't do well. You can really get caught up as an artist in like you're looking for validation all the time. You're looking for like people to pat you on the back and tell you like, no, it's great that you're doing this, that you're doing that. It's an amazing realization, because once you realize it, you're free. So I'm not looking for it anymore. I just don't really care. I don't really know what's happened. It's like, I don't need it or want it in the same way that I did a year and a half ago anyway. And I'm really glad. I'm so glad.
I was going to ask, had you completed the album? Was it all done and dusted just before lockdown, or did you still have to polish it, after things went pear-shaped in March?
No, it came out the week of lockdown, the first lockdown. It came out within that week.
Wow.
So, as I say, how upset am I allowed to be, because it's like the world's ending. So I didn't feel like I could be upset, but I was really upset. And then feeling sort of guilty for it as well. So it's just a really odd time. And I think a lot of musicians just didn't really know what to do or how to handle it at all.
Yeah.
And I think you're allowed to feel your feelings. And then it's about managing those feelings. And you mentioned Eckhart, you're reading, and my wife and I are massive fans of him. And I think you yourself mentioned, that's 8 years in the making. And you know what? You release an album all after 8 years, and you go into a pandemic. I think you deserve the right to have those feelings and work out what your emotions are.
Yeah.
But it's genuinely lovely to hear that you're in a different place now and you're through that. And before we move on, what an amazing album. What a genuinely wonderful reception that it did get, especially critically, which you must have been over the moon with.
Yeah.
Can I share my favorite quote from a review? It's like Nick Cave doing Broadway.
Yes.
Nice.
I love that, because I am such a big Nick Cave fan, and I think that sums it up as well. It's a wonderful album, Ren.
I was going to say I was photographing the Magic Numbers on Saturday, and I'd photographed them before, but I'd forgotten how infectious they are as a band and how just kind of happy they make me feel. And I'm guessing that working with Romeo must have been a pretty nice thing, working with him in the studio.
Yeah, it was. Meeting and working with Romeo pretty much like transformed everything really in my life, because just for so many reasons, but yeah, he's extraordinarily giving and patient and kind, there's no patronizing you. I can't tell you how much up to that point when I met him, how patronized I'd been by people that I'd worked with. And I'd been sat there since the age of 17 thinking, I know exactly what's going on. And you don't think that I do. And and it was quite an isolating, lonely place to exist. And then I met Romeo, and it was like meeting like a fellow, like lost child or something, like Neverland. It was a bit like that.
Yeah.
But not only was he lovely and all those things, but he also works extraordinarily and has an amazing work ethic. And you have to bring your A game when you're with Romeo. You don't want to coast. You don't want to do, pretty good. You want to do the best thing you've ever done, because he's a genius, and he really, really cares about the music. It's all about the music.
I love that. And he's one of those people and artists that I've only ever heard wonderful things about. In fact, a previous guest on the podcast, Catherine Williams,
Oh yeah.
Just dotes on all of them in the Magic Numbers, not just Romeo, but all of them. And it's just, that's so good to hear that there was that person that came into your life at that moment and just was the catalyst for you to think, oh, here it is, I've got it. So that must have been just a wonderful experience.
Had you known him before you started working with him?
No, I knew of the band, but I didn't know him. He sent me an email out of the blue. He saw me on Jules Holland and sent me an email.
Wow.
And I remember just thinking that the email was just quite different to the usual, like, do you want to work together kind of thing. It was just different. And it made me a little bit curious because the email was quite weird as well. And then when I met him, I was like, he's amazing. And he is slightly strange as well. And, all that kind of was going on. And I think what it is that I was just like, oh, he's just like he's like a true artist. And it's just all about the art for him. That's all, like, because, you can work with people and they're like, okay, today, you're going to work with someone who wrote, with this pop star and this pop star, and they're really good at doing this kind of chorus. And it's like, okay, I'd done so much of that. And then when I met Romeo, it was kind of like, there was just no formula really in terms of like, this is what I think you're like, and this is what I think we should write about. It was more like, let's talk about, flowers for a bit,
I'm going to take you way back and just ask about when you were growing up. I mean, what was the household like in terms of music? Was there a lot of music in the house when you were a kid?
Yeah. I lived with my mom in a bungalow in Broughton. And because we were in a bungalow, there was no stairs, obviously. So my mum was very into playing music late and loud into the night. So because there was no stairs, I would always I've said like the music was like sort of my lullabies when I was a kid. So, it was eclectic. It would be The Fall one minute, then Billie Holiday. I remember those two were played a lot when I was a kid. She was into Durruti Column and like lots of soul, lots of Stevie Wonder, lots of John Cooper Clarke, like Salford people love Salford artists. But my mum was like in theatre company, and so there was lots of theatrics going on. And then my dad was a pub singer. So my mum was more sort of avant-garde, and then my dad was like, in the pub, he would have everybody singing and clapping and transfixed. And he would do a lot of standards, or he would do like Simon and Garfunkel and like Don McLean and Gilbert O'Sullivan, like, just like classic songwriting.
Yeah.
So I'd often hear those like classic songs when I was growing up, and I heard them so much that like it kind of trained my ears into what was like a great song, what made a great song, and what made a good song. What was the thing that tips it over the edge into it being a great song? Yeah.
And sometimes it can be a melody, but sometimes it can be a choice by a particular musician at the recording. It can. Yeah. It's almost intangible. And I think when we set out to do this podcast, I think it's a similar kind of thing. We set out to work out what makes a good gig great and what makes a good gig kind of tip the other side.
Yeah.
And with music, it can be the tiniest little thing. Just that, an accent, a phrasing, whatever.
So I'm assuming then you were exposed to live music at a very young age with your dad singing.
Yeah, I mean, my mum would have a lot of barbecues in the back garden, and loads of people would come from like around the area, sit in the back garden, and my dad would play the guitar. A lot of people would sing, that weren't singers, but they would sing. And so I learned very early on. I got a sense of what makes the space even quieter than usual. What that was, what that magic that happens. I got a sense of it when I was really young, in either like the phrasing, the delivery, the silence. So yeah, I learned it, definitely learned it.
So can you pinpoint the moment that you thought, I want to do this? Or at least did you join in? Did you join in when you were younger, when you had those barbecues, or were you just stood in the back watching?
I never joined in. I was really shy. And I was really shy. I wasn't a stage school jazz hands kind of kid. I was when the doors closed, when I could be alone, and then the show would start. But I found it really difficult. I didn't even know I had any kind of talent at all. Even when I started to sing and people started to react quite strongly, I didn't really even think it was me. But the passion for it has probably come in the last few years, just because I think when you're so afraid all the time, it's hard to enjoy it, and it's hard to know if it's what you want to do, because it makes you so frightened.
Yeah.
But now, I could say now at this age, at 31, this is probably the most certain I've ever been that I want to do it.
Yeah.
Do you think that you suffered with sort of imposter syndrome then, or do you think it was something else?
I mean, yeah, I think there was definitely that. I didn't really have a lot of support, and so and then when I got into the business, it was just all very strange. It wasn't. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself at all, especially on the first album. I was like a shrinking violet the whole time, and I had no idea that I could write songs. I didn't know that I kind of told myself, like, yeah, I'm a good singer, but like, so what? But yeah, I think probably every musician has a bit of imposter syndrome, for sure.
But there's still then that desire to perform, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you were back in the MySpace days, and you were putting videos and music on MySpace, weren't you? So there must have been something there for you to at least have the confidence to put it out there in the world.
I guess, but if I'm honest, the reason I had a MySpace account is because a friend of a friend gave me free studio time, and I was dumped, and I wanted to show the guy that I was with that I was over him, so I put the songs on MySpace. That was it.
I love that so much.
With like a pouty photo, and it was like, I'll show you, I'm so over you. Like, I never thought I would be contacted. I lived a really small little existence. We didn't have any showbiz connections. I was just living in a bungalow with my mum. Like, nothing was going on at all. I was completely and utterly shocked when I got a message from a manager. I couldn't believe it. But maybe somewhere in my mind, but initially it was because I got dumped. There must have been somewhere, yeah, must have been.
Live gigs then, start going to live gigs first as a punter, or actually were your first live gigs as a performer?
They were as a performer, yeah.
So you didn't go to live gigs before then?
No, never been anywhere. I'd not done anything. The first time I went to London, I had a meeting with David Joseph, the head of Universal. I didn't even know how to get on the tube. I didn't even know how to scan the ticket. And I had a meeting at Universal. That was the first time I went to London.
How old were you? 17, 18?
Yeah, I was 17, yeah.
So I'm now totally intrigued. So what was your first gig then?
Stevie Wonder.
Brilliant. Nothing like starting with a good
It was a big one.
Kidding me.
It was at the MEN. I was 19. That's the first proper gig that I went to.
Who did you go with?
I went with my mum and like Stevie for nights. I was as soon as he like sang the first note, I burst into tears. I remember that. It wasn't even a slow song, but I was completely overwhelmed I was so overwhelmed that he was in the room.
Was it relief? Was it something that you'd always wanted? Or was it because this was the man that you'd heard played in your house, you know, growing up? Was it sort of nostalgia? Was it just everything?
Yeah, it was just like the closest thing to magic.
Sorry, I was just going to say, was it in 2008?
I think it might have been, yeah.
No, I was at the gig.
Are you kidding me?
That's the...
Oh my God.
So, listener, Chris is actually... so for regular listeners, you will know that Chris has his folder of ticket stubs, and he has just shown Ren his ticket stub from that gig.
Wow, we were at the same gig.
Yeah, I was at the same gig, but it was really, I mean, I loved everything about what he was doing, but we had some really annoying people in front of us who were singing at the top of their voices. And I don't mind people getting involved, but when you're so far back and all you can hear is the people in front of you, like, yeah, very annoying. But yeah, he was knockout. But wow, first gig, excellent.
I love that you had that experience, because so many people just have different experiences and go to a gig and yeah, we had fun, but for him just to open his mouth for the first words and you just think this is magic.
Yeah,
I love that so much. I don't suppose you kept the ticket stub. I don't suppose you have anything from that concert, do you?
I might have done, but I kept it in a shoebox, which I did burn. It's a long story, but there was lots of love letters in this. I had a special box of special things, but when I got my heart broken, I burnt it. So I think the tickets were in there, unfortunately. But the memory is still alive.
Exactly. Well, I've got my ticket, and I'll post it on Twitter so you can have a look at the ticket. But all I remember about the gig, apart from the annoying people in front, was just the set list was just the most incredible thing I'd ever heard. Because you know, when you've been going since the early '60s, every single, I mean, I suppose second only to Prince. You know, you've got Prince doing his greatest hits, is like a 25 tracks. Stevie's set list was just boggling.
Yeah, it was pretty much downhill from there after that gig.
Oh, come on, you've got to tell us why now. How did it go downhill from Stevie Wonder? What came next? I mean, was it gradual, or did it really just drop?
I think it's probably my own. No, but I think it was, because the first gig I had was probably about a year later, if that. Maybe within that same year was when I started doing my own shows.
And where was your first gig?
The first gig I did was in Liverpool, at the Zanzibar.
Oh, Zanzibar! Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it was that was the first time I saw men in vintage clothes when I went to Liverpool, in flares and long hair and stuff like that. And they were all hanging around at the Zanzibar, and I remember thinking, like, this is a tough crowd to impress. I know this lot have got all the B-sides going on. Like, I could feel it. So I knew that I had to bring it for that. Even if it was my first show was Liverpool.
It was a proper hipster crowd.
Just like cool music nerds. Oh, That's what it was in there.
I'm going to be honest. I used to be one of them, and that hasn't changed. So it was like that back in '97 when I first went to Liverpool. I was there in '97 to 2000, and I was wearing those. I'm so sorry, Ren. I was wearing those clothes. I would go to Zanzibar, and that has been that still happens in Liverpool. If you go now, it's still exactly the same.
Yeah, but I loved it though, because it was kind of like, people really care about music.
Yes, they do.
You know, like they really care about it, and it's niche. You know, it's not like what's on the radio. These people don't care about that. So it was a good room to play, you know. You didn't feel like you were being judged other than the songs. How good are the songs, you know?
Oh, what can you remember then? Can you remember anything else about the actual gig then? Whether it was someone's face or how you felt it went, or reactions or the smells, the sounds?
Well, I remember because one of the songs on the first album, Open Up Your Arms, that was written by Dave McCabe of the Zootons, and he came to that show that in the Liverpool. I remember seeing him stood at the back, and I remember when I came off stage, he said to me, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I cried, like, when he was singing the tune there. I burst into tears. And I didn't expect him to say that, because I just didn't. No. So it was really nice, you know, it was a really nice moment.
What a wonderful moment. Did seeing his face make you nervous, or did it actually help you?
Yeah, I was always nervous around that time, because everybody was older than me and seemed to know so much more than I did. And I just felt nervous. I felt like I was trying to get in with a crowd or something, you know, like I just felt behind.
Like you were playing catch up.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, there's a scene. I'd go to Liverpool a lot, you see, like the first time when I first started making music, I was always in Liverpool because my manager was from Liverpool. So I got introduced to that scene, you know, and like Abby from the Zootons and Howie Payne, you know, I just thought they looked so cool, and they were into such cool stuff, you know, like I hadn't really been around that much in Salford. That wasn't really the vibe in Salford as much. So, no. but I was intrigued, you know.
Do you feel now that you don't, when you go on stage, that you don't have to prove anything? Do you feel like you have a change of confidence where you don't have to win the audience over? You know what you're doing, and here's my songs. Or do you still have those slight feelings that you did at the beginning?
Well, I'm not nervous in the same way where I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah.
But now it's more like I'm hyper conscious of the audience and how they're feeling. I want to be the best performer, you know, and I want to be an icon. Like I wouldn't be here if I didn't. So it's kind of like, for me, what do I have to do to make sure that when the audience walk out, they are completely and utterly enchanted? I don't for a second become unaware of that audience. I'm like, you know, looking into the audience, looking into their eyes. I'm like, I'm just wanting to make the best show ever. If you know, I change the set list nearly every night. I change the songs around. I want to keep it fresh, exciting. I want it to be surprising, you know. It's like I'm working my ass off up there. I don't for 1 second sit back like and go, I've got this, you know. I'm just never.
For you as a performer, how do you keep it fresh for yourself? Because for the audience, it's changing the set list, things like that. Does that then automatically refresh it for you, or do you have to do something else to help keep you spontaneous and feel like you're performing in a genuine way?
If the songs that I'm not into, I won't do them, even if they're my own songs. Like I won't do them because there's nobody with a gun to my head telling me you have to do these songs. So,
and do you mean in the moment? Do you actually mean in that moment? If you think I am not feeling that right now,
I won't do it. I've done it in the past. I've done it loads in the past, and like I just I won't do that anymore. But you know, there's some songs that are, you know, say like especially hard to sing. Like I've got a song on Revel in the Drama called Yes Please, and you know, it's three choruses, 3 big choruses, and it's falsetto the whole time in the choruses, and then in the verses it drops back down. And it's a really tough vocal, and it's a sat back delivery. So although it's really challenging to sing, it has to feel sat back and sultry and slinky. So the two things are going on at the same time. And I don't always want to do that one, because sometimes, you know, I've been in the van for 6 hours and I don't want to do it, you know. But like I realize that it's one that goes down really well, and you know, I love the song, so it's pushing through that. It's like there is an element that you have to push through, and you go, okay, come on, let's do it, you know.
Do you know something that's just crossed my mind now, having spent years and years going to gigs and even being that person that would occasionally get a set list. A set list, especially if you're a band, is just practical. For you, is a set list restrictive, or do you feel like that you can change it? I don't know if I'm eloquent enough to explain how I'm feeling, but it's just, as you were talking then, do you feel that a set list is just a guide, and actually you just change it whenever you want? Because I'm not aware of that as a fan watching a band, so I don't actually know if they have ever changed. I'm
sure they do.
The order.
I change mine all the time.
Mid-set.
As I say, I'll have the guide. Yeah, I'll have it as a guide. Yeah, but mid-set. Yeah, because sometimes you might want to bring a slinky, sexy vibe, and the crowd is. You might be playing in a church, and it feels weird. And then there's other times where you walk out, and the crowd are like, "Way!" and it's like beery and like boozy, and you think they don't want the introspective things right now. They don't want that. They want up. So I have to change it on the spot. I'm always molding to what the atmosphere of the crowd is.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody does that, but I do it.
I mean, it's a bit like a stand-up comedian. If they're not getting the surreal stuff that I've started off with, maybe they'll get the the observational stuff or the gags or that kind of thing.
When you are writing and recording songs as an artist, do you take into consideration how they will sound live, or do you think about how they will sound, and does that affect how you write or finish a song at all?
I think sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I think about it. Other times, like, the song comes out so quickly that I'm trying to chase it, and so I don't think about anything else other than trying to get the song finished. But I think about it more now because I've got a studio now, which I've never had before. So I now have a studio in Hoxton, and it's where I am at the moment. And so because all the ideas that I have, I can immediately go in and start working on them. That's opened up a massive world for me. And I do think about the live aspect now. I just want the audience to be thrilled from start to finish, so I am thinking about it.
It's funny because I wouldn't know. And so it's just something that's interested me, whether it's in the back of a performer's mind or not at all. And is it intrinsically linked, your the potential of playing the songs live? Because some artists are just on records and do very few gigs and have told me that they're not even, performing them live is not their favorite bit. They just love to be in the studio and they just love recording. What's your relationship with your songs and playing live?
I think both for me. I love the studio, and I love the live aspects as well. Live really makes you, you can have a song that you've written in 5 minutes that you think, I'll pull that one out tonight, and it goes down amazingly. You can have songs that you've worked on for months, and then you bring it to the audience, and for some reason it's a little off and you don't know why. You've
written with lots of people, and some people that I just love. We've mentioned Romeo, and I love Ed Harcourt as well. Have you played live with any of the people that you've written with?
Well, Romeo Stoddart's in my band. He's my guitar player.
He is actually the guitar player in live.
Yeah. Brilliant. And his sister Michelle it plays bass in my band. Oh,
Michelle's in there as well.
Brilliant. Happy birthday, Michelle, by the way. It's her birthday today.
Yeah, it's birthday today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fab.
And you're going off on tour with them. When's the tour? When does the tour start?
I'm opening up for them on the 15th of September, and then they're going to be playing in my band in November.
Brilliant.
Yeah, they're the best.
Are you looking forward just to getting back out to live gigs? You must have missed it, have you?
Well, I just did 16 dates. I got back about a week ago. Like Revive Live and the Music Venue Trust like sorted it out and organized a load of shows. I couldn't believe it. It came out of nowhere, and they really like looked after me, you know, like I couldn't believe it really. And so I've played places I've never been to. I was just thinking before we were chatting, like some of the venues that really stood out to me just for different reasons. So I was thinking, what is it about certain venues that make them more memorable than other places? Some of the ones on this tour that really stood out to me was like in Deal, I played this place called the Lighthouse, and just amazing vibes. I don't know, like the owners were lovely, really looked after me, and like and then there was another place in Hull called the Adelphi, which was like that was like old school rock and roll. When I turned up there, it was quite a, you know, it was one of those venues where they had like a venue cat, and there was just characters everywhere, and the place was decorated, and it just had so much character. And when you played a few venues that are quite like tick boxy, of like not really got any personality, then when you go to somewhere like Hull, especially when you've been taken by surprise, you're not expecting anything, and you turn up and the people that run it are like really interesting and like really polite and really lovely, and then the venue's dead cool. It does have an effect on the crowd. It has an effect on you, and then it has an effect on the crowd, and like it's really interesting what happens. And then like I did a few churches, and like that was really different as well. Because what I've noticed with like churches is that generally people are a lot more reserved. I think because they're in church, you know, they're kind of like in the pews. Like
the churches were still in use.
Yeah, I played a 500-year-old church in Ashford. Yeah, 500 years old, this like gorgeous Gothic church. As I say, I've played in places that I've never been to. I've never been to Peterborough or like Ashford, Deal, like any of these places. And but people are really up for the music. I couldn't believe it. It was like I had no idea what the reception was going to be like. You know, like, are people going to be into this? I'm playing more acoustically for this one. You know, I prefer to play with a band, but just like we had to go like acoustically for this one. Are they going to get bored? I've never even had merch and selling merch and like people buying it. I couldn't believe it. You know, it's mad. It's mad going to somewhere like Hull and like seeing people sing along to your music. Yeah, it feels like people are more than ever just so up for it, so up for music. Like, you know, it's like pin drop silence for all the gigs, you know.
I love that. You must have just had a smile on your face for the past 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, there was lovely atmosphere, like most of the shows. You know, there was one or two that were a bit dodgy maybe, but on the whole, you know, it was like, I was shocked, you know.
Ren, we are going to take you into our quick fire round. And as we always say, it just never turns out quick fire, mainly because of me. So I'm going to try really hard to not keep talking. So here's your first one. Who is your favorite voice or favorite vocalist live?
Rufus Wainwright.
See, Alex. See, we were talking about your music, and I was saying that it was certainly the first album. It's like Eddie Reader merged together with Rufus Wainwright, and so I'm really pleased you said Rufus.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah, I love Rufus.
You were right.
Yeah, I know I was right. And what is it about Rufus? Is his voice? Is it the? Well, you tell me. I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
I just can't get over Rufus. I can't get over him. I think he's such a brave artist. He has the album, he says, when he tried to be a pop star, which is the album that was produced by Mark Ronson, that Out of the Game album. It's like, that was my go at trying to be a pop star.
Yeah.
But even that, it's like, Rufus, you can't be doing chord changes like that if you want to be in the charts. Like you can't.
Totally.
But still he does it. Still he does it because he can't compromise, because he's on a different wave. He's on a different, you know, like the music is so unbelievably emotive, beautiful, and it's all the things I love about an artist. You know, vulnerable yet knows, and there's an eccentricity and there's a sassiness and there's like just the ear for melody, and as a vocalist, I mean, who can touch him? Like, I don't know. The guy has got a range and control that's just like, it's shocking. Like, it's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
You know, and something that really pisses me off actually is that he's not even bigger than he is, but I think it's because he's a bit out there, you know, like it's not to everybody's taste, which I can understand, but I've seen him live a few times, and like when he sits at that piano and sings, like I just lose it. I can't take it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think Want 1 and Want 2 are kind of the greatest pieces of musical art of the last 30 years. I think they're absolutely astounding when you look at the breadth of the styles within there, and the arrangements, and the melody, the lyrically as well. Because I mean, he's chucking shade about left, right, and center on those albums as well, and it's just bold. So I love that from an artist. And I mentioned him at the start, Nick Cave. Nick Cave does that for me. And I've been so lucky to see him in various forms. So I've seen him, you know, full band with the Bad Seeds, playing everything. And then I've also seen him in Liverpool, actually, in the Philharmonic Hall, him and a piano. And he just has me in tears. And it's tears of joy, and then tears of sadness, and he has that ability to sound like he is a mass murderer, and then he has the ability to sound like he's just so fragile and is going to break down, and then there's and for me it's that I think that is the drug for me for live music, is being taken on a journey. I love to go and see bands and artists where I'm just singing along to their greatest hits and we're all joining in the chorus. But there's a real beauty about seeing an artist like Rufus or Nick Cave and many others. Tori Amos used to do it to me as well back in the day. And it's just such a wonderful experience. And it's those nights that I just think, I just always want to be here. I never want this to end. I would take this moment over probably anything else. Anyway, this is the quick fire round. Yeah. So question number 2. Your favorite ever gig, I think, as a punt. Let's do a punt as a punter.
Well, recently, the first gig that came to my head actually was a band called the Lemon Twigs. Have you heard of those guys?
The Lemon Twigs.
The Lemon Twigs. 2 brothers. They're like, it's like old school rock and roll, 70s, sort of psychedelic. But they're like sort of like musical theatre as well thrown in. I saw them at the Moth Club in London.
Wow.
And that it blew. I mean, they were both still. I think they were both teenagers. But like Todd Rundgren. I can never say that last name.
Yeah,
Rundgren. He loves them. And when I was there, like Brian Eno was there, Alex Turner was there. It was very like, it was insanely buzzy in there. I mean, the Moth Club as a venue is like, I love that venue. I'm playing there in November actually, but check them out. They're just super talented, super interesting. The Lemon Twigs.
Oh, I absolutely have to listen to them tonight now. What is your worst gig?
I mean, I've seen loads of terrible gigs where I've been fuming that it's not me up there. You know, the early gigs in Manchester were quite, what's the word? Rough and ready, shall we say?
Yes.
A lot of Harviews and Harviews, my dad's side, Harviews in the crowd is always going to be interesting. I remember when I was telling like some, earnest moment on stage, it was pin drop. Then at the back I heard, "Oh, get on with it." And then I looked, I'm like, who the fuck is that? And it's like, oh, it's my dad. So
brilliant.
I love that.
But yeah, I'd say like the only times I've had a bad gig is just like when the crowd aren't really asked, and then I get it gets a bit weird. But I've never had a disastrously terrible gig.
If you could front any band, so you pick up the lead singer and put them in a box, and then you put yourself into the front of the stage, what band would it be?
Anyone at all? This is interesting. I like this.
I think if I was younger, it would be the Runaways.
Wow. I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, I'd have to keep Joan Jett.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would be in the Runaways, and I'd go around. I'd be touring like Japan with the Runaways, and I'd be the front woman.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
But keeping Joan Jett in there.
In the 70s, like I would love to do that. Or maybe I'd kick David Bowie off, and have the Spiders from Mars behind me.
He didn't have a bad band, did he?
No.
That would be incredible. Have I ever told you, Chris, that I used to go and have tea with Mick Ronson's mum in Hull?
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
There's loads in that
one there for you.
Yeah, save that. Save that for the autobiography.
Do you know what? And she absolutely adored him, and would give me a different piece of memorabilia every time I went, and was just so over the moon that someone was showing interest in him, as though he wasn't one of the greatest guitarists ever. And I just be like, yes, of course, I would love that CD. Thank you very much.
Wow, amazing.
That'd be brilliant. And she'd be like, I've got a copy here of all the young dudes that they played live. Would you like this? And I'm like, yes, thank you very much.
Anything else?
I know. Anything else? Any guitars? Got any guitars around here?
See, I like this question. So often if you're doing a support, or if you're headlining and your support gets sorted out for you, you can often be placed with a band or an artist that doesn't quite fit with the kind of music that you do. I'm guessing that must have happened quite a lot.
I think because we're both from the north, it seemed like a good idea, but me opening up for the Cortinas at the Apollo was not a good idea.
It's not the most obvious fit, is it?
No,
it
wasn't. No, it was a sea of men and young boys that did not want to see a young girl on the stage. It was just like I'd pierced the male energy in the room, and they were all furious.
They're gonna have to watch their language or something.
So I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a song about periods.
Oh, let me just say this now. I love you. And that is the best thing ever. Best thing ever. More than anyone, I'm all right with a bit of testosterone, and you see a lads band, whatever, that's great. Love it. But that is brilliant. And I don't think I've only ever sort of referred to this on the podcast. The Cortinas themselves, I am sure, are lovely people, but they are.
Oh, yeah, they were lovely.
Were they? Oh, typical.
They were.
But they are one of the bands musically that have just gone over my head over the years.
Yeah.
Shall I cancel Liam for next week then, Alex?
Yeah, cancel. No, he's always seemed lovely, and I've tried, but I just don't get it. But there is no denying when they play live, and I've seen them twice. Once at Glastonbury with my kids, and the crowd went absolutely batshit. It was amazing. They absolutely have total control over their own crowds. Brilliant. But the thought of you supporting that is wondrous to me. I'm gonna be thinking about that this evening. That's absolutely brilliant. So we are sort of coming to the end. We have taken so much of your time. We just have a few questions left for you. Who do you? Well, this is sort of a double one. Who do you really wish you could have seen live, but it's impossible because they're no longer with us? And who do you still want to see live that you haven't yet? And you sort of you could.
Nina Simone. Would have loved to have seen her live.
Yeah.
And an artist called Fiona Apple.
Oh yeah.
I've been a fan of hers, but now having a big surge with the latest album. And I like that album, but actually that's not my favorite record of hers. But she's a really interesting person and an interesting presence from what I've seen live on YouTube and stuff. Very unpredictable. And I love solo artists that play piano. Like, I'm just a sucker for it. So yeah, I'd probably say those two.
To see the first time Fiona Apple came in my consciousness was maybe late 90s when Pleasantville came out, and her cover of across. And we're coming back to Rufus as well, because he's obviously done a cover of Across the Universe. But I remember hearing it and thinking, what? Because I didn't know that it was a Beatles song. I just thought it was an original. But it absolutely blew me away. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know it was a Beatles song, because it's not one of the more better known Beatles, really. But
she's amazing.
I can tell your influences and your loves, because there's a theme running through your answers, and I really like that. Because Nina Simone as well. Nina Simone was apparently live was very unpredictable, like Bob Dylan. And this is now a cliche on our podcast. We always mention Bob Dylan live because you can see him do the worst gig you've ever seen, and then also he can turn it on and do the best. And so apparently Nina Simone was like that, and often there'd be no rapport with the audience. It was just her. Here's my songs.
Who do you recommend we go and see live?
Matt Maltese. You heard of him?
No. See, with every episode, we do a playlist, a Spotify playlist of what you've mentioned, and we'll put some YouTube videos on your webpage as well. I'm going to be going back over this and writing down. I mean, at the moment, I think we're going to have about 20 videos on there. Matt Maltese.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Matt Maltese.
Tell us about him.
Well, I heard of him years ago when he was signed to, I think it was Atlantic. And he brought a song out called As the World Caves In. And I was like, all right, he's going to be the next huge star. Like, he's incredible. And then it didn't really happen. And then I went to his show and I was blown away by his songs and his voice and his like just starriness that he had. And then like this year, he's that song has become like a sensation on TikTok. Like it's like one of the biggest songs ever. It's everybody has, it's like the TikTok tune,
Yes.
And it's been streamed hundreds of millions of times, and it blows my mind because I listened to that song maybe 3 years ago, and I remember thinking like, I can't believe this isn't huge, and I guess now it is. So I'm so chuffed for him. Because like he's like enormous now all over the world.
As soon as you said that song, I was like, well, I know that song, obviously, but
that's Matt Maltese.
I had no clue. And I am almost positive that I have heard it as well, coming from my kids' phones.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have.
Yeah, because that song is everywhere, and that's bad of me that I've not even taken the time to find out who that was, because it's a great song though. It's a brilliant song.
Yeah, and live, like his voice is just like crazy, like it's crazy good.
Well, this is going to be an education.
Have you actually seen him live?
Yeah, I did. I saw him at is it Dingwalls, that one in Camden?
Wow. Yeah, Camden.
I went there, and I was really blown away. I knew it was going to be good, but I was really blown away.
Well, I don't have TikTok, so I'm kind of in the dark. I feel like I'm...
Come on, get with it, Chris.
Well,
get your TikTok
Facebook,
on.
Instagram, Twitter, and emails, and if I've had something else, do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to have to give up my job. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure it's for us, Chris, I'll be honest, mate.
Yeah, not quite the demographic, I don't think.
So... Ren, you are amazing. Thank you so much. We always like to finish an episode with another recommendation, but it's also a question as well. What is your favorite live album or track? It started out as your favorite live album, and then it sort of evolved. Mine's Mystery White Boy, Jeff Buckley. And then it just evolved because we realized it could just be a live track, or it could be a live video. So there's that wonderful Hall of Fame induction where Prince just walks on in the middle of, I can't remember which song it is.
Well,
and
my
just
guitar
blows everyone away.
weeps.
That's it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Badass.
And it is the best because he just
Amazing.
throws that guitar
It is,
at the end and it disappears. And it's like, who's got that guitar? Where's it gone? So what is your favorite live album or track or video that you like watching?
It's probably the live live album version of Heart Food by Judee Sill. She's like, I don't know, like sort of, I don't even know how to describe her really. She had a little moment in the 70s, but she was a heroin addict and she died. She had a turbulent life, but she's got the well-known song is called The Kiss, and there's a version of it on YouTube. She, of her playing the piano and song, but that whole live album, like I must have listened to that hundreds of times, like whilst I was making Revel in the Drama. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, you should check it out. It's there's so many good songs on it. Yeah,
Definitely.
And that's been a bit of a constant, is it, through your musical life?
Yeah,
that album.
Yeah, I mean, I got into it in my early 20s, like, and it's not like I listen to it every day, but when it comes on, it does always stop me. I have to stop for a minute.
It's been great chatting to you.
Such a pleasure.
So you're on tour in November, did you say?
Yeah, I'm on tour in November. Yep.
You in Manchester?
I'm playing, Manchester Gorilla. Yeah.
Yes.
Which I love that venue. Love that venue. So yeah, it's gonna be great. I hope you guys can come.
No,
we
definitely.
will be there.
We will be down the front.
We know we've got a lot of northern listeners, so Gorilla, if you've not been there, then what are you doing? It's a fantastic venue, and let's all go there and we'll all meet at the bar, and we'll hear Ren sing about periods.
Rock and roll.
Hey.
It'll be amazing. It's been so lovely hearing your enthusiasm for music, and so lovely hearing you be, open and truthful. And I really appreciate that. So thank you.
I know. Thanks a lot, guys, for the great questions and nice vibe and stuff.
No worries. No worries. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Ren.
There we have it. Ren Harvieu. How was that?
See, she's just brilliant. I love her. What an amazing woman.
Yeah, and she's on tour in November with promoting the new album, and as she mentioned, basically her band is the Magic Numbers as well. So you get a twofer. You get a 2-for-1 there.
Which is amazing. Amazing. They're incredible musicians, and I think both of us are lucky enough to have seen them live quite a few times. And if there's still dates coming up, do whatever you need to do to go out and see Ren, because honestly, it's an amazing night.
Yeah, and oddly enough, in Manchester, she'll be playing Gorilla, as we mentioned Gorilla earlier on, which is a great venue for her. It'll be because the acoustics in there are really great. And and how odd was it that I was actually at her first ever gig, Stevie Wonder at the MEN. Yeah.
Yes, that's completely bonkers. I love that.
I was mentioning the fact that the set list was just crazy. and I've got it up, right? and I know a few
You've
episodes.
got what? The Stevie Wonder set list?
The set list up on setlist.fm, which is just, you'll waste an entire day there looking at all the gigs.
Yeah,
that you've been to. So here we go. And I know a few episodes back I listed all the Oasis at Loch Lomond tunes that they played. So anyway, just forgive me. So he started with a cover of All Blues by Miles Davis, right?
Which is, I mean...
Oh my God, it's just a cracker.
That's incredible. Yeah, I tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with a cover.
Yeah. Then we go, As If You Read My Mind, Master Blaster. Number 3 was Master Blaster.
Master Blaster.
Yeah. Then Living for the City, Golden Lady, Did I Hear You Say You Love Me, All I Do, Knocks Me Off My Feet, Higher Ground, Don't You Worry About Thing, Visions, Ribbon in the Sky, Overjoyed, Lately, which, if you've not heard Lately, get it in your ears. It's just the most beautiful love song.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I'm Going to Laugh You Right Out of My Life, which is a Nat King Cole cover.
Yep.
My Cherie Amour, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Then Sir Duke, I Wish, Isn't She Lovely, Do I Do, Uptight, I Just Called to Say I Love You.
He played it.
Yeah, he played it.
Oh.
Cha Cha Cha. Superstition. And then As to finish. Now that is a set list. I'd wish that he'd finished with I Just Called to Say I Love You, and then at the end
can you imagine
cha cha cha
a gig finishing with
cha
bum,
cha
bum,
cha.
bum. Good night.
Yeah, that would have been great.
That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so 25 tracks, and he just he knocked it out of the park. So
and you know, that's what amazes me as well, is getting to a certain age. I'm 44 and I'm just struggling getting out of bed.
You don't look it, mate.
No, I look 54. To at his age, to then, never mind just do a concert, 25 song set list. And, you know, he puts everything he can into it when he performs. And it's just, what an amazing man. Yeah, what a gig that was. What a gig. Well, we hope you enjoyed that interview as much as we did. Ren, you're beautiful, and we're so excited that you are back on the road playing live. So, guys, girls, ladies, gents, get in touch with us. We're on social media. As always, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send us your questions, your opinions, your suggestions for guests.
And send us pictures of gig tickets. So we're into the month of October. I just shared 6 tickets from October 95, which was a pretty ridiculous month for gigs for me in Glasgow, where it was, what was it again?
You had Pulp, Echo
Belly, Black Grape,
Black Grape,
Blue Tones, Marion, and then just this little band at the Barrowlands called Radiohead. And that was just in the month of October, and none of them more than £9 a ticket, I think.
Yeah, exactly. $9.50 a lot of them were for a while, weren't they? 95 was an amazing year. Yeah, if you've got ticket stubs, or if you've got something else that reminds you of the gigs you went to that year, please send them to us.
And I keep on saying, I keep on saying that I'm going to create this gallery page on the website, and a page just for gig tickets, for pictures of your collections of gig tickets. But that's the next thing. So if you send in pictures of your gig tickets collections, then I'll get them on the website as well.
We need them first. Thank you for listening as always. We really appreciate it. And Chris, I'm going to just surprise you here, and I'm just going to say this and leave it because it's just come to mind because of something you said. This is a live music podcast. But yesterday it was announced that next June, Liam Gallagher is going to play Nebworth.
Yeah.
Wowzers. See you in 2 weeks.
I would just suggest that he maybe gets the coach instead of the helicopter, right? Think if you know Liam. Bye.
Bye-bye. Avoid the lawyers, Chris. Stop talking.